you set up a fund to help support comedians that are struggling. Now that's
Yeah.
bloody amazing, and
Thank you.
like Eddie Brimson, and it said something that's quite honest about the circuit itself in terms it is a can be a dog eat world, and it is good to see people that are actually doing things that are helping others on the circuit. And like, what was the heart and soul behind it, and like how hard was it, and what was the process in which you got sponsors? Did you go to the sponsor, say, listen here, Sonny Jim, you better give me £1,000, or
Yeah, pretty much. I put on a "See You Jimmy" hat and then she went knocking on doors. No, absolutely not. Uh, but yeah, no, it was hard. It's such a mix of so yeah. I guess for anyone that doesn't know, we have one act at the Fringe this year who is being funded by Red Bull UK, which is obviously, I mean, the biggest brand in the world, arguably. Red Bull, like, there's not many people who haven't heard of Red Bull, like huge brand. And then a second act that's being funded by Blackfriars Comedy Club, which is like an incredible comedy club in Glasgow. And it came about, so it was kind of last year's Fringe, basically, of just walking around. And as I say, I'm very biased about the Scottish comedy scene, but I really do think that the Scottish comedy scene is incredible. And Scottish people are funny and pride ourselves on being funny. Like, we think that we're funnier than anyone else on the planet, and our comedy scene's incredible. But it just does feel like every Fringe, and I keep caveating that I'm biased because I bet everyone feels like this. I'm sure it's not just. I don't think there's a conspiracy to like keep Scottish acts down at the Fringe. Like, I really don't think any of that's happening. But it was like this year, just so many incredible Scottish shows, none of which nominated for awards. Like, and just, yeah, I don't know. I just kind of wanted to like support Scottish comedy because I'm from here and I work in the Scottish comedy scene, and support like working class acts or people who can't afford to come to the Fringe. And I had been thinking about this a lot last year. And essentially, because I am good at admin, like, weird thing to brag about, but like my skill set is like project management, admin, like that's my background. And I was like, I wonder if I could use that for good and put together a really like shit hot sponsorship proposal and send it to as many people as I can think of. Because as I said, a lot of comedians, like, that isn't why they got into this. They're not, comedians don't get on stage and tell jokes because they want to run a business. Like, they want to be creative and worry about being funny. So anyway, so I was like, I think I could get sponsorship, and it'll be a tiny little drop in the ocean, but it'll support someone in a really tangible way. So I wrote this proposal. I was like, maybe like 4-page proposal, but essentially saying everything I've just said to you, but in a more professional tone. I got lots of friends outside of the comedy industry to read it, like just people with like a more business mindset to read through this, and we made changes and everything. And then I had this like tracker document of everyone I'd sent it to. So I'd planned like the initial send and then the follow up and then the third follow up, and then I would like tick them off the list. And I had this like tracker and everything. I did loads of research of like companies I thought would be interested, and sent it to so many people. So I would block like 2 hours a week and just send it out, and did that for like a month maybe. And I kind of had a deadline in my head because I was like, obviously there's a point at which the Fringe deadlines start. So anyway, got nowhere. Like, I think I should find the number. I think it was maybe like 10 people or 10 companies got back and said no, and no one else responded. And it was over 100 people that I'd sent it to. And then spoke to Red Bull, and she got so lucky. Because now where I'm like, oh, I could have just sent it to Red Bull and been done with all of this. But I sent it to Red Bull, and the timing was perfect. They were looking at their like kind of next year's budget, and the Fringe was a big part of their budget. Like, I kind of work with like the East of Scotland team essentially, who the Fringe is their big like regional moment. They felt as though what they'd done last year at the Fringe was like good, but it wasn't kind of tangible enough. They weren't like offering anything, and they were like, yeah, cool, let's do this, let's do your thing. And then obviously I went, I should have asked for more money. But yeah, they've been incredible, and they're so relaxed about it. They're so in their kind of like model of it, as much as they're supporting a comedian and supporting the Scottish comedy scene, they're also seeing it as supporting me as a like Scottish female comedy producer. So they're really happy to like support me to support a comedian, which is really nice. rather than going like, we want our logo all over this and we want you to do it our way. They're like, you crack on, you're the expert. Like, we'll help if you need us, kind of thing. So yeah, so that was incredible. We opened like applications for it. The criteria were like vague. It was like you have to be Scottish or live in Scotland, and you essentially have to feel like you can't afford to go to the Fringe otherwise. And over 50 people applied, which was incredible, but devastating that like over 50 people felt ready to debut but couldn't afford it, which is pretty telling in itself. And then so Io Denican is an incredible Scottish act. He like lives in Edinburgh, he's down in Leith, and he like all of his material is about like growing up a black bisexual man in overwhelmingly white Edinburgh. Like he's just so like warm on stage and like silly and tackling this like huge like political like identity politics material, but with this like warmth and silliness and like ease. He's so incredible. So I'm so like proud to be working with him. And he's at Monkey Bar, which is amazing. And then, yeah, basically then, long story short, Io Denican and Jack Traynor are like two Scottish acts that I was desperate to support, desperate to work with. And I didn't know how to pick between them. And I asked loads of people in like the Scottish comedy industry and at the festival and other promoters and everything. And everyone was like, yeah, I don't know how you choose between them, man. Like you're on your own. I don't know what you're going to do. And then Blackfriars Comedy Club, where Jack gigs a lot. He does a comedy pub quiz every week and he's there a lot, has a really good relationship with them. So Chris Conway, the owner, basically went, fuck it, what do you need? And matched the Red Bull funding. And now we have both of them going to the Fringe. So it's, yeah, right? Like, it's incredible. And I'm so proud of the two funds and I'm so proud to be working with these two acts. I'm also super conscious that it's a drop in the ocean. Like, two people in however many hundreds of thousands of millions need support. But for those two, like, you always kind of have to choose with anything like this as to whether to support a bunch of people a little bit or support a small amount of people with loads. So I think I've made the right call because hopefully now this is the two of them set to do the Fringe for as long as they want to, because they won't necessarily walk away with thousands and thousands of pounds profit, but they won't lose a penny. Yeah. So hopefully they make a little bit of money, and then if they want to, they can put that towards fronting next year's costs, and that's them then on that cycle of getting their settlement and then paying their deposit. So yeah, super proud of it, and honestly, both acts are truly like two of the most exciting acts in Scotland right now, and beyond that. Like, they're just incredible. So if anyone's coming to the Fringe, do them a favour because they were funded. They need the ticket money. But yes, it was hard work, but I also then got super lucky at the end. So I think with things like this, you never know if it's going to be hard work or not.